I still remember the sound of laughter echoing through the Alden mansion that night. My laughter, my family's laughter. Back then, I thought it was real. The clinking of crystal glasses, the faint hum of jazz, and the flash of 1,000 smiles that didn't belong to me. "George, can you grab another bottle of wine from the cellar?" That was my mother's voice. Well, the woman I thought was my mother. Her tone was sweet but sharp, like honey poured over broken glass. "Of course," I said, smiling like the obedient son I'd always been. I moved through the corridors of the Alden estate, the scent of polished oak and expensive perfume lingering in the air. Every portrait on the wall was a reminder that I didn't quite fit. Blue-eyed, blonde-haired perfection stared down from gilded frames. Then there was me, dark hair, olive skin, quiet eyes. No one said it out loud, but I always knew I didn't belong. When I returned with the wine, Cincer, my brother, was standing in the center of the room, glass raised, charming the crowd like he'd been born for it. He had that glow about him, the kind of man who made you believe in luck until you realized he'd stolen yours. "To family," he said, grinning at me from across the table. "To my brother George for always being the dependable one." There was polite laughter. I smiled back, pretending it didn't sting, because deep down I knew what that meant. Dependable, not brilliant, not air, just useful. After dinner, I slipped out to the balcony for air. The city lights below shimmered like molten gold, a cruel mirror of everything I didn't have. That's when I heard the conversation through the open window. "Mother, he's been good to us, hasn't he?" "Father, he should be, after all we've done for him." "Cincer, please. He's lucky to even be here. You know he wasn't supposed to be in Alden in the first place." My breath caught. My fingers tightened around the railing. What the hell did that mean? 24 years earlier. Rain poured over the hospital parking lot. 2 crying infants, 2 mothers in pain. A storm that knocked out power, a nurse running between rooms in the chaos. One mistake, 2 lives switched. Back in the present, my heart pounded as I stepped back into the room. "What did you mean by that, Cincer?" I asked quietly. Every head turned, the music stopped. He smiled, that perfect plastic smile of his. "Come on, George, don't be so serious. We were just joking." But my parents' eyes told me it wasn't a joke. There was guilt there, heavy, decades-old guilt. That night I couldn't sleep. I found myself in the study digging through old family files, birth records, hospital receipts, adoption papers. One file was missing, the one labeled Alden birth, May 14. The next morning, I went to the hospital myself. The receptionist hesitated when I asked for records from 29 years ago. "Those files are confidential," she said. I smiled politely, but my voice trembled. "Then consider this a matter of identity theft." 2 weeks later, I had the truth in my hands. We were switched at birth. I wasn't born in Alden, Cincer was. But fate had played one last cruel joke. When the truth came out, they didn't welcome me. They didn't apologize. They called it an unfortunate situation. "We've already built a life with Cincer," my father said, avoiding my eyes. "You'll always be family," my mother added, "just maybe not legally." And then came the worst of it. Cincer smirked and said, "Guess it's only fair, George. You've had my life long enough." Within a month, they disowned me. The inheritance, the house, the business. All gone. They replaced me like I was a faulty part in their perfect machine. But that's the thing about being thrown away. You learn to burn quietly. I built myself back from ashes, sleeping in a 1-bedroom apartment, taking odd jobs, watching the Aldens live their best life on social media. Engagement parties, business expansions, charity galas. And then one morning I saw it. Wedding invitation, Cincer Alden and Leila Thompson. Leila, my ex, my first love. My chest went cold. "You're invited," the card said in golden letters, because family always comes first. For the first time in years, I laughed. A dry, bitter laugh that echoed through my empty kitchen. "All right, brother," I whispered. "Let's see how family handles the truth. They say time heals all wounds." But standing in front of that wedding invitation, I realized some scars don't fade. They sharpen. The gold lettering gleamed under my apartment's cheap fluorescent light. Censor Alden and Leila Thompson, join us as we celebrate the union of two souls. Union. The word made my stomach twist. I sat on my worn-out couch, staring at it for a long time. Same couch I'd bought second-hand after being kicked out. Same one I'd fallen asleep on when I had nowhere else to go. And now my brother, no, the man who stole my life, was marrying the woman who once said she'd love me even if I had nothing. Apparently, nothing had an expiration date. "You're not invited," a voice in my head whispered. "Oh, but I am," I muttered back. "They just don't know it yet." I flipped the card over. RSVP instructions. A note from Censor himself. "Hope you can make it, George. Wouldn't be a celebration without you." That line, that smug, self-satisfied line. I could hear his voice saying it, that fake warmth dripping through every syllable. Film frames flashback, 3 years ago. "George, you'll always be my number one," Leila said, brushing her hand against mine. We were in the garden, sunlight filtering through cherry blossoms. I smiled back, clueless. "Even if I lose everything." She laughed softly. "You could lose the world and I'd still choose you." Except when the world offered her something shinier. Back to present. I RSVP'd that same night. Yes, attending, +1. No hesitation. Because I already knew who my +1 would be, truth. 2 weeks later, I arrived at the Alden estate, now transformed into a fairy-tale palace for their most important day. White roses, golden chandeliers, guests in designer suits and forced smiles. "George." I turned. It was Aunt Miriam, one of the few who still talked to me after everything. "Oh my God, it's been years. You look different." I had to, Aunt Miriam. Survival makes you creative. Her eyes softened, but she leaned in close. "You shouldn't have come. It's Censor's day." "Exactly," I said quietly. "It's his day." Inside, Censor was in his element. Perfect tuxedo, perfect hair, perfect smile. He saw me and walked over, arms wide like we were long-lost friends. "George, you actually came." "Wouldn't miss it," I said, gripping his hand tightly. His grin faltered for a second. I saw it, the flicker of unease. "Censor, I'm glad you're here, brother." "George, brother, you sure about that word? It's flexible, isn't it?" He laughed it off, but his eyes darted away. Good, the cracks were showing. The ceremony began. Leila walked down the aisle, radiant in her gown. Everyone gasped and smiled. Everyone except me. I just watched. Watched her look at him the way she used to look at me. Watched him bask in a life that was never his to begin with. Watched the people who called me son and brother pretend I was a stranger. After the vows, I slipped away to the reception hall. The media was setting up cameras. Censor loved attention. Every move, every toast would be broadcast online. Perfect. Because I brought something with me. A small USB drive. And a smile. 2 months ago. The hospital records hadn't just revealed the switch, they revealed who made it happen. The nurse on duty that night. Paid off. By who? Harold Alden. My father. He discovered the switch years later and decided to keep it quiet because Censor was better suited to carry the Alden name. The truth buried under money, signatures, and silence. Back to present. The wedding MC announced. Now, a special tribute from the Alden family, photos, memories, and a surprise video from the groom's brother. Perfect timing. The lights dimmed, the screen came alive. Everyone clapped until the video started. It wasn't a tribute. It was the hospital records. Birth certificates, DNA confirmations, signed statements, and finally, a scanned letter from Harold Alden himself. "We'll keep the mistake quiet. No one must know." Gasps filled the hall. Leela turned to Censor, eyes wide. Censor went pale, frozen mid-toast. "Surprise," I said softly, stepping into the spotlight. "George, family always comes first, right, Censor? You took my home, my name, my life, and somehow my fiancé. I figured the least I could do was return the favor with the truth." "Censor, you don't understand." "George, oh, I understand perfectly. I just stopped forgiving." The cameras were still rolling, the guests silent. The Aldens finished. Censor lunged forward, grabbing my collar. "Why couldn't you just let it go?" he hissed. I smiled calmly. "Because you didn't just take my life. You wasted yours pretending to be me." Security pulled him back. Leela stepped away from him, tears in her eyes. "Leela, is it true?" "Censor, Leela, I can explain." "Leela, just don't." The crowd erupted in whispers. Phones filmed everything. The Aldens, the untouchable dynasty, undone by the son they threw away. I walked out into the night, the cool air hitting my face like freedom. My hands trembled, but my heart felt light. Then Aunt Miriam caught up to me. "George, what happens now?" I looked back at the chaos I'd left behind. "Now," I said softly, "now they get to live with the truth." But even as I said it, a voice whispered inside me. Was that justice or revenge? The video I had leaked the night before had gone viral, millions of views. News outlets picked it up. Headlines screamed. "Alden Dynasty Scandal. Brother switched at birth exposed." Censor Alden's life was a lie, family betrayal revealed. And the cherry on top, everyone finally knew my name. I walked past the marble fountains and ornate gates, now eerily silent, the party wrecked, champagne spilled. A butler approached, trembling. "Mr. George, sir, the family, they want to speak with you." I smirked, funny, I was going to call them. Inside, the Aldens looked like statues carved from shame. Harold Alden, my so-called father, pale and stiff as a corpse. My mother, hands shaking, pearls undone. And Censor, well, he looked like a child caught stealing candy. "Censor, George, you don't understand. I didn't mean." "George, save it. I do understand. I've been living it every day." He opened his mouth to argue, but I held up a hand. "No, not another word." 1 year ago, I was sitting in a tiny cafe, counting the last few dollars in my wallet, nursing a coffee I couldn't really afford. A thought hit me: if life gives you ashes, make fire. So I started small. Legal loopholes, private investigators, connections. Everything I'd lost, the inheritance, the Alden name, the house, was being quietly mapped back to me. Censor thought I was weak. He thought I'd disappear. But ashes have a way of burning brighter than anyone expects. Back to present. "Harold, George, this is a misunderstanding. We were trying to protect Censor." "George, protect him by stealing my life." I let my voice rise, filling the grand hall. Every guest, every staff member, every camera heard it. "Do you have any idea what it's like to watch your own life be stolen? To watch people you trusted laugh at you behind your back? Do you?" My fists clenched. I could see Censor's face twisting, struggling to find words. He had none. Aunt Miriam, tears streaming down her face, whispered, "George, maybe you should forgive them for your own sake." I paused. The thought temptation was sweet. Forgiveness could set me free, but did I want freedom or did I want justice? Then came the sound of breaking glass. Censor, in a last-ditch act of desperation, had thrown a chair at me. I sidestepped. Security restrained him. George, this is what happens when you build a life on lies. Not luck, not charm, lies. The irony wasn't lost on me. For decades, I had been the one living in shadows. Now, I was the one controlling the narrative. Leela stepped forward, tears in her eyes. Leela, George, I didn't know. I studied her for a long moment. The woman I had loved, the woman my brother had stolen. She wasn't entirely innocent, but she wasn't entirely guilty either. George, sometimes ignorance doesn't excuse betrayal, but it can teach it. She nodded, trembling. Leela, can you forgive? I swallowed hard. The power to destroy or heal was mine. And for the first time I felt it fully, the weight of choice. Outside the night had settled. Rain had begun, soft and cold. I stepped onto the balcony, looking down at the estate, at the empire of lies crumbling below me. And I whispered to myself, ashes fall, but fire can choose its own path. The Alden estate was quiet now, a mausoleum of pretensions. Censor stood in the center of the grand hall, shoulders stiff, eyes narrowed. For the first time in my life I saw fear, not of me but of truth. Censor, George, you've gone too far, you don't have to do this. I stepped closer, my shadow stretching long across the marble floor. George, do what? Show you the life you stole, expose the lies that built your empire, or finally give you what you deserve. His jaw tightened. Censor, you could just let it go, forgive me, like you always pretended to. I laughed softly, bitter and low. George, forgive you, after everything. I remembered the day my life had been replaced. My apartment empty, my things gone, and Censor waving at the world with my achievements pinned on his chest. I remembered watching him sign contracts in my name, laugh with my friends, date my ex. And that smile, oh God. That perfectly smug smile, like the universe itself owed him everything. I had cried in silence for months, letting rage ferment like wine. And now, finally, the world had shifted. I looked at him. George, you lived my life while I slept in shadows. I could ruin you, take everything from you legally, financially, socially. You'd have nothing. He flinched. Censor, you would. I stepped closer, my voice lowered. George, I could, Censor, and maybe I should, but here's the thing. I paused, letting the silence stretch like a blade. George, you've already lost. The world knows who you really are. The Alden name, it's tainted. Your fiancé doesn't trust you. Your parents, even they look at you differently. The life you built on lies is crumbling around you. You don't need me to destroy you. Truth does it better than I ever could. Censor swallowed hard. Censor, so, you're letting me live. I nodded slowly. George, I'm giving you a choice. Live with what you've done, own it, or keep hiding behind lies and lose everything piece by piece. The only difference now, I'm not doing the destroying, that's your life, your consequences. He sank to a chair, head in hands. Censor, I never imagined I'd lose everything. I put a hand on his shoulder, oddly gentle. George, you lost long before you realized it. The only thing left is deciding how to face it. Do you fight, or do you learn? His body shook with sobs, not just fear but grief, a lifetime of arrogance melting in minutes. I turned away, walking toward the balcony. The rain had stopped, leaving the air sharp and clean. I breathed it in, tasting freedom. Some part of me wanted to laugh, some part of me wanted to cry. But mostly I felt light. For the first time in decades, I didn't need revenge. It had been sweet to imagine, intoxicating even. But forgiveness was liberating. The rain had finally stopped. The streets outside shimmered under the city lights, reflecting a life I hadn't imagined I'd get back. I walked past the remnants of the Alden wedding chaos, the overturned tables, crushed roses, and the faint echo of whispers. The empire of lies was still standing technically, but hollow, fragile, exposed. And I was finally free. Inside the estate, Censor sat alone in the grand hall. His once pristine tuxedo now looked rumpled. His posture slumped like the weight of years had finally caught him. "George Hay." He looked up, eyes red, face pale. For a moment I thought he might attack, but no, he just stared. "Censor, you did." I shook my head. "George, I didn't have to. The truth did it for me, and it'll keep doing it every time someone remembers what you did." He laughed bitterly. "Censor, so that's it, you're done." I smiled faintly. "George, I'm done with hatting you, done with giving you power over me, done with being a ghost in my own life. The rest is yours to live with." He slumped further. "I don't know how to fix it." "George, you can't, that's the lesson. You can only face it, own it, or crumble." 6 months ago. I sat alone in my apartment, staring at a crumpled photo of my younger self with Leela. The memory of her hand in mine, the warmth of her smile. I had loved her deeply, and she had been ripped from me by my own family's lies. For a long time, I thought that love was lost. But as I rebuilt myself, I realized something. The only person who could take back my happiness was me. Back to present. The sound of footsteps brought me out of my thoughts. Leela. Her eyes were red-rimmed. Her hands trembled as she held a small envelope. "Layla, George, I'm sorry. I should have left him the moment I realized everything. But I stayed, because I was afraid of losing you, because I thought maybe you'd forgive me." I took the envelope from her, feeling the weight of every unspoken word. "George, you stayed for the wrong reasons, but you wanted to be honest. That counts." She smiled faintly, a glimmer of hope breaking through the tears. "Leela, do you forgive me?" I studied her, not just her eyes but her heart, the mistakes she'd made, the love she'd still carried. I smiled softly. "George, yes, but forgiveness doesn't erase the past, it just lets you breathe again." She exhaled, a sob catching in her throat, and for the first time in years I felt lighter. I looked out the balcony at the city below, lights shimmering like 1,000 tiny promises. The Alden family had learned their lesson the hard way. Censor would face the consequences of his lies. But I had chosen freedom. And freedom felt like fire, warm, fierce, unstoppable. That night, I left the estate and walked into my new life. No inheritance, no name, no borrowed identity. Just me, my truth, and the knowledge that sometimes the best revenge is living better than the person who tried to steal your life. Months later, I had rebuilt a life I could call my own. Small apartment, small business, big dreams. Leela stayed by my side, not as someone I had to forgive, but as someone I chose to love. Censor, he tried to recover. He failed. The empire he thought he owned crumbled. The Aldens learned painfully that no lie could survive forever. And I learned the most important truth of all. Revenge can destroy. Forgiveness can heal. But nothing is more powerful than reclaiming your own life.